What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Fu, and I'm your host. And today I'm co-hosted by Kyle Gorlick. Today we're going to be talking about the summer signings, winners and losers of the offseason, Harden Rumors, the top 100 ESPN list. All right, guys. So before we get into the signings for the offseason for the Nets, just wanted to get your thoughts, Kyle, on who you thought Blossom played well in the bubble, primarily for the Nets.
Well, I think the number one guy was LeVert, who showed how well he could play. As the clear-cut number one guy, he really showed that he could be an all-star in this league. He averaged in the 20s points, handled the ball, got, for the first time, double-doubles consistently. He really proved that he could be an all-star in this league and the third player on a championship team. And then other guys that impressed me were TLC and Tyler Johnson. They look like they could be great bench spots on a championship team, great role players. So that was a great job by Nets front office to find these guys that could just be role players on a championship team. And Jared Allen also just keeps improving.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that, especially TLC. I feel like TLC was pretty much average throughout the season, but he played really, really well in the bubble. He got his shooting together, way more consistent than he was previously. And yeah, and other guys too, like Tyler Johnson, they played well. They fit in because the Nets had a lot of roster spots that were open, obviously, because a lot of people sat out. A lot of people stepped up and they did what they could with what they had. So, but going off of that,
Yeah, definitely.
Going off of that, Nets made a lot of moves themselves in the offseason, particularly the biggest one, a coach. As the Nets went in a different direction, they moved Jack Vaughn back to an assistant coach. He's definitely a pivotal part of the team, getting him back on the staff at least, and signing Steve Nash, All-Star and Hall of Famer, Steve Nash. So what do you think your thoughts on that and the signing was?
Personally, I don't know. Like, how could anyone really judge the signing? We do not know what Steve Nash is going to do as a coach. We know that he's a great player. We do not know about the coach. This would I say, like, is the most surprising signing with the no experience that Steve Nash has. And obviously, we're trying to be a championship team. But low key, I really like Mike D'Antoni as an assistant, even though it's weird. I know Mike D'Antoni as a coach. He's a great coach. I don't think you could blame him for not winning a championship or going to the finals with that Rockets team. The Warriors were always better than them. And I don't know much about that Suns team that didn't go to the finals. So I think Mike D'Antoni is a great coach to help Steve Nash, especially with this offense. I think we just overall have a great coaching staff, and I think it will work. I think it's going to take some time, and we probably won't be like the best seed in the East during the season, but I think it's a great coaching staff we have, and should definitely like help our players connect and get that chemistry up.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Steve Nash signing is really similar to Steve Kerr, former player, first-time coach, stepped into a position with a team that was easily able to contend for a title. This is the same with Steve Nash. He's definitely got a good team. The expectations will be high. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll finish just nicely. As long as he does what he needs to do, he'll be fine. The team will do the rest, honestly. And I think pairing him with assistant coaches, like you said, Mike D'Antoni, he's a head coach caliber, obviously. He was literally just a head coach for the Rockets. So getting him to be an assistant coach is pretty crazy, considering he probably could have went on the market and signed for any other team. And also getting like another assistant coach like Amari Stoudemire, and going back to that Suns team, coached by D'Antoni, having Nash and Amari Stoudemire on the team. They ran the 10-second offense, and that might actually happen with the Nets too. Maybe something similar, at least, really fast-paced. So that's definitely something to look forward to for the Nets. Yeah. And I mean, there was a couple other key signings too. Yeah.
Yeah, to talk about more about the other signings, it wasn't just the coach. I mean, Joe Harris, even though we gave him a lot of money, we need him on our team. Such a big part, spreads the floor beautifully. We really needed him, worth the money we gave him. And then what I really like is the Jeff Green signing. I think Jeff Green has been an amazing role player for so many years, even last year at the Rockets. And obviously, the weakest spot in the Nets roster is the power forward position. And like if we need to run small ball, he's a great guy to come off the bench.
Yeah, I
So I
definitely
think
agree.
that's a very underrated signing.
Jeff Green, former teammate with KD in his time with the Thunder. Um, I think
Yeah,
the
that's
Nets made.
great.
I
Keep
think the
getting
Nets made the signings that they needed to do. They made some moves. I mean, I still think they somewhat lack on the defensive side, especially seeing rumors that Nash might have Durant play the 5 at times. I think we're a little undersized slightly, comparing us against other teams, but the talent's definitely there. And
mm,
I mean, as long as the team performs, I think the Nets will do fine. Especially they'll get their way out of the East for sure. But yeah, the Jeff Green signing was good. The trade for Bruce Brown I thought was very good too, considering the return we got like for him.
that's a good
Obviously,
defender.
giving up Musa, who's virtually worth nothing. Um,
And Bruce
that was a
Brown's a
great
great
trade.
defender.
Yeah, Bruce Brown is a great defender. I think he's, I guess you could say a poor man's Drew Holiday almost. He's probably got like half.
Yeah.
He's like, he's not. He's good defensive side, obviously, but he's probably our Drew Holiday.
But with small ball, Jeff Green's huge. Like play him at the 5 and KD at the 4. That's two guys that are quicker than a lot of people and they're big. So that's a great small ball lineup right there.
Yeah, for sure. And then the Nets made a couple other small re-signings. They brought back Tyler Johnson, Chris Chioza. There's a lot of guards on the team. Um, you could definitely see how some people are a little wary of that. But I mean, the guard position, the depth isn't terrible. I mean, Kyrie's been a little injury prone lately, so just like keeping a player like Dinwiddie so far, other stuff like that, just having like backup just in case anything were to happen, I think is, the smartest move to make moves around too. I just wanted to get your opinion, Kyle, on who you thought were some winners of the offseason and some losers.
I think the biggest winner we have to say is Gordon Hayward. Well, clearly, I think everyone that knows anything about basketball knows that contract was overpaid. I mean, this man has finessed already 2 franchises on huge contracts. He's one of the richest players in NBA contract wise, and he's played like 1 full season in the past 3 years or something. So that's the biggest winner. But with teams regarding, I think the Sixers were a big winner, and the Nets need to watch out for that. What they needed shooting, and Seth Curry was amazing. Tyrese Maxey to draft, and I'm blanking on some other guys they got, but they really improved that shooting standard. It's just whether they stay healthy. I think a loser is the Celtics because even though they overpaid Gordon Hayward, uh, and like you should not give him that contract, losing Gordon Hayward's a huge deal. It puts more pressure on these young guys, and Kemba being out. And they really didn't do anything else. Like Tristan Thompson was their highlight for a team that really needed to improve to getting to that next step. I think that was a big loser. Then I think a big loser is the Nuggets that not a lot of people are talking about. This team just made the conference finals, and they're a young team, so you figure they should get some good veterans to get to that final stage. You should definitely believe you're a finals team after the season they just had. But they really didn't do anything. They just lost guys and re-signed Paul Millsap and got RJ Hampton was their big off-season signing. So I think that's also a big loser. And just to say one more winner, the Blazers and Lakers were both winners. Like they didn't improve their team like so much, but it definitely improved their team with having very little space to do anything. So those are big winners too.
Yeah, I would say for me, um, a big winner I think would be the Hawks. In the East, the 8th seed is kind of up for grabs, and I feel like the Hawks made some pretty crucial moves in order to get themselves to be able to compete for that spot. Because there's definitely other teams that could somewhat contest against that. Like I guess a LaMelo Ball, like
Wizards.
Hornets maybe too. Like the Hornets, obviously with Westbrook now. But I feel like the Hawks made some great moves. They got Bogdanovich, Gallinari. They signed Rajon Rondo. Those are all like pretty solid players, especially Gallinari. If he could keep playing at the caliber he was before, because he's a little on and off sometimes. Yeah, but
Hawks
I
or
think the Hawks.
Wizards,
Yeah,
8th spot.
yeah, yeah. I would agree. I'm probably gonna go with the Hawks, the 8th seed. but I think other teams can compete too, like the Hornets, um,
Bulls.
Bulls. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean for the loser side of it, I don't know if I could really point out like one main loser. I mean, I guess a team that's kind of a loser is the Pistons, but they're just like losers in general. But like the moves they made were kind of just like so like non-beneficial to anything. Their trades made like no sense, and they were just like signing like a bunch of players at like ridiculous amount of money. Like Plumlee got a ridiculous amount of money with the Pistons for like no reason at all. Um, and I mean, I know that's not very it's not a major deal like league league altering, but I mean, I know Derrick Rose has been wanting
Well,
to kind of like take on that leadership role and with the Pistons, obviously they're in the rebuild mode, but I feel like they're just not rebuilding like properly at all.
yeah. Well, I have a question for you. Talking about winners and losers, our crosstown rival, the Knicks. What do you think they go to
I think
quickly?
the Knicks are winners only on the fact that they didn't go out there and try to spend a ridiculous amount of money on players that like were only going to be there for like a year or two, because obviously they had a bunch of signings last year, all for like a year, and just in the fact that they feel like they've just been so willing to just give anybody money just so they could play for the Knicks, just to get people there. And I know they still
Yeah.
have like a bunch of money still left over, still. And I think the moves they made were like they're pretty good. Um,
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the only big thing they could have done was Van Fleet, and they were never getting Van Fleet with the Raptors offering him that much money to play on a good team. So good job by them, I guess, not making any big mistakes, letting their young core ride.
yeah, I definitely like what they did with taking the guy from Seton
Toppin.
Hall, Miles.
Miles Powell. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what the Knicks are doing, especially with also getting Obi Toppin too. I feel like they're trying to almost have people root for them like locally. Like they're picking like local players relative to New York. Like I think they're trying to like push that narrative like the to be New York's. So there's been a lot of rumors going around, especially with James Harden. He seems to be very unhappy with the position that he's in right now with Houston. A lot of things have been coming out on social media too, with you know him being in Vegas, not showing up for training camp, owner not really knowing where he is, and he's made it pretty obvious, at least from this, from the news coming out, that he wants out of Houston. He's really focusing on wanting to win, because I guess he doesn't feel that he could win with the Rockets. And one of the teams that apparently he's been interested in going to, being traded to, is the Nets, and there's a couple other teams too. And I just want to ask you, Kagor, one, what do you think it would take for the Nets to get Harden, and also, do you think it's worth it? And who do you think would actually be best suited to get Harden?
Well, Shams just reported that the Rockets have no interest in doing a trade with the Nets unless it involves Kyrie and Kevin Durant. So obviously, James Harden's a better player than Kyrie, but I don't see KD being or DeAndre Jordan or just the team being pleased with giving up Kyrie for Harden, and that'll like ruin the chemistry more than replacing Harden with Kyrie. So if I were the Nets, I would not trade for Harden. Like I maybe like even with trying to give up Levert, Dinwiddie, Allen, and picks, that's a lot too in rooms to depth. So I think the Nets should just try to stick with their team now and maybe like see if there's any all-star type players for third star or whatever that are easy to get in the trade deadline. Because I don't think we're obviously not getting up Durant, and I don't think Kyrie's going to end well, or like they would even allow that. So that's what I think for the Nets side. And personally, I'm like scared of any teams he goes because I think Harden's definitely leaving. He's good as gone with everything that's happening and him like giving more teams that he's okay with. They're all in the East and they're all like the best teams in the East, like the Heat, Bucks, and Sixers. I guess like I don't think the Bucks could get him because even like Middleton, they won't do that straight up, and they have like no young assets. I think the team most likely to get him is the Heat because they have a lot of young assets. They have all their picks, and Like, I don't see the Sixers giving up Ben Simmons. So I kind of see him going to the Heat out of all the teams that listed him. And I still think the Nets should beat the Heat if they have James Harden, but it'll definitely be really tough. But I see him going to the Heat if he gets traded to the teams he said
Yeah. Personally, I
that were
feel like
given.
the best offer that the Rockets can get is actually from the Nets, other than a trade offer from the Sixers, including Simmons. Only because I think with the trade offer from the Heat, I don't think like a Hero, Robinson, yeah, they're good. I don't think they would really get to the type of ceiling that like LeVert and Dinwiddie are at. Because the issue with the Rockets is never really had like consistent like role players. Even they struggle with just getting like a guy next to Harden who could like put up the same type of numbers like he can. And I think the Rockets are almost undervaluing like LeVert and Dinwiddie's like true worth, is because I know a lot of reports have been coming out that they want like an immediate all-star. And I guess you could say like LeVert and Dinwiddie aren't immediate all-stars, but they both have the potential to be all-stars, obviously. Um, and like I said, I think where would Harden fit best is probably with the Sixers. And if the Sixers are willing to give up like Simmons, then I think it would happen. I don't know if the Sixers
No
would do
way.
that though. But I feel like that would be the best fit for him at least. But in reality, I don't think he really goes anywhere, to be quite honest. I don't think he, you know,
I disagree. Like, I know, like, it's hard to pick these teams. Like I said, the Heat, but that's just because out of all the teams, I think they're the only team that would give up the assets. So, like, they won't give up Adebayo, but maybe if they want to do Hero, Nunn, Robinson picks. But I see him definitely gone with him just listing all these teams and like so hesitant to come to practice took so much and like I don't, and then during the season if he starts there I just see them being bad, so he definitely would want to leave.
and for the last topic we'll be talking about today, we're going to wrap it up with talking about the ESPN Top 100. They just came out with a list. They just actually came out with the top 10 today. And I want to talk to you also, Kyle, about how you feel about the top 10. And if you think anybody in particular in the top 100 is overranked or underranked. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
First, just to say, since this is a Nets channel, KD 6, I think that's BS. I'm gonna be honest, because I think if we all know KD looks great in practice, and he's just a different breed, so he's not going to be that derailed from this injury. Maybe it won't be the same player, but it won't be that derailed. And if that's the case, there's no way KD would be the sixth best player in the NBA. People were talking before he got hurt being the best player. So, like, I think he's better than Davis, who I'll get into later because I think he's way overranked. I think he's better than Giannis. And then right now, I think he's better than Luka. I think at the end of the season, we could have a totally different discussion as Luka is the second best player. Honestly, Kawhi. I see KD like probably being around the third best player. Like you'll probably have to give it to like Giannis or Kawhi or Luka. Maybe now at 2, and then he'll be 3. 6 is ridiculous. And then AD, I think, is based off what I saw the most overrated player. Like, really, you're saying like if the Lakers truly had the 2 best players in the NBA on one team, they would sweep their way through the playoffs. Anthony Davis is not the second best player just because he won a championship with LeBron. If people don't know, I'm a LeBron fan, so I want the Lakers to win. But AD is not the second best player in the NBA. He's like around 5 or 6, probably 5. So I think that's a really big overrated because 5 to 2 is a huge jump. And then talking about, I want to get into Kyrie. I think Kyrie's a little underrated, being at 25. Like, you're really going to give a guy Zion 6 spots over Kyrie when he played 22 games in his career. Like, that's ridiculous. Paul George with the playoffs he had is ridiculous. The only player I see like ranked over Kyrie that should is Karl Anthony Towns. I think Karl Anthony Towns is also underrated at 23. But that's my opinions on the list.
Yeah, Zion's a whole different story. That's just like kind of crazy.
That's
Hype is
probably the
outrageous
most
with him.
overrated. Like,
With
22
my
games and
opinion,
he's ranked the 19th best player.
yeah, with my opinion on the top 10 at least, obviously the rankings are pretty much based on who was healthy and who wasn't. That's probably why KD's 6 right now. Is KD actually 6? No. He's 2 or 3. It's kind of outrageous to even think that Giannis and Luka are better than KD. Kawhi can stay in the top 5, honestly. But I think what's even crazier is just the fact that like Curry isn't in the top 5. Like Curry's like easily is 100% a top 5 player, but I guess like him not being healthy plays a massive, massive role. But like Dame is definitely not better than Curry. Like that's not even like a question.
Yeah,
And
I agree
Luka
with
still
that.
has to like
But
prove
if you're
himself
saying
too. Yeah.
if you're saying Curry should be in the top 5, and you're already saying LeBron, Kawhi, KD should be in the top 5, who's like Curry going to be over in the top 5? Davis, Luka, Giannis?
Well, my top 5 probably
'Cause I
goes.
disagree with you on that point.
My top 5 probably goes LeBron, KD, LeBron, KD. Maybe I can't put it in like the exact positions, but it would consist of like LeBron, AD, KD, Curry, and probably Kawhi. I think Giannis would probably be like 6th.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. I agree with your list. I choose Giannis over Curry as of now. I mean, I've always been a Curry hater. I just don't feel like you replace Giannis with Curry now, Warriors do better. If so, I personally, I'm not a big Curry guy. I think he should definitely be over Dame. I give Curry 6. That's my opinion.
Mm.
It's just so outrageous with Zion though. This man's played 22 games, and he's 19.
Yeah, it seems like
That's
most
the
of the
case,
list
the
is very
Pelicans.
uh very hype related. Even like Hero too. I know he's over like a bunch of players, like D'Lo. I forget a couple other ones too. But the list is really based off hype. Like I understand like the Luka
Yeah.
hype. I understand the potential. Like people are already like considering him to be an MVP. Like no matter what, like he's bound to be an MVP. It's just a matter of like when. Like is that? It's just a matter of time almost. But we're talking about like present, like right now. Is Luka
Yeah.
really a top 5 player? He's top 10 player, but is he a top 5 player? I don't think so.
I think he's a top 5 player at the end of the season because I have him winning MVP. I think now, no. But at the end of the season, he's really going to prove himself.
All right, guys. So we went over a lot of topics today, and I feel like we went into some really good discussions. And also take note, if you didn't already realize, this is our first episode on Spotify. You can listen to us on Spotify and YouTube. You should expect about at least one new episode every single week until we figure out specific days, get the schedule down, stuff like that. So yeah, if you guys have any recommendations on what we should talk about in the next episode or, anything at all, feel free to give us some feedback on that. And that's pretty much it. So I'm your host, Ryan Fu. And like I said before, I'm co-hosted by Kyle Gorlick. And yeah, that was NetCast Live.